The moon glowed brighter than it seemingly ever had. The night was cold, bitter, and a looming sense of unease approached. Far off from the centre of London, in an abandoned car park, a faint but familiar wheezing groaning noise echoed throughout the hollow concrete and decaying cars. A deep blue box phased in and out of reality like a fantastical trick that you'd see at a magic show. The box was weathered and worn by 1,000 years of long travel across many times and places. When the box was fully phased into existence, you could see that it was clearly an old police box, lit up dimly by a lamp on its roof, and a soothing glow seeping in from the windows. The door of the police box swung open, and a tall, thin man like a cricket or a hungry praying mantis came out. Not hungry for food, but hungry for an adventure, and something to act as a distraction from the terrible things he knew he'd done deep down inside. He wore a long brown trench coat which came alive in the wind coming from an open shutter, leading out into the harsh, sharp night. All things that would normally make someone want to run back inside, grab a cuppa and fly away. But for this mysterious man, this made him want to run out and explore like an eccentric child high on sherbet. He got out what would commonly be mistaken for some kind of magic wand, but was obviously something more complex and beyond human understanding. The object emitted an irritating buzzing noise, like a swarm of giant vexed wasps. The man, dressed in a slim, chocolatey brown pinstripe suit, which looked like it was fitted for a stickman. Under it he wore a pale blue shirt with a floral tie, choking his throat. Finally, to top it off, he wore a white sand shoes, which looked like they'd run 1,000,000 miles of corridors all by themselves. The laces were loose and looked almost as if they were running away from the shoes. "Martha! I think I found it!" the man yelled out. Then, out from the box came a more contemporarily dressed woman. Martha wore her hair up in an explosive bun, and she wore a crimson red leather jacket and navy blue jeans. She had an inquisitive look about her, and she too was hungry for adventure. "I keep telling you, I don't know what you found unless you tell me, Doctor," Martha replied, slightly frustrated with the turning up in less exciting car park compared to the fantastical worlds the Doctor had shown her in the TARDIS. "It's here, well, near here, but," so the Doctor said as he ran out the open shutter and into the night, followed on by Martha, who'd shut the doors to the magnificent police box as she ran after him. Little did they know that there was something lurking in the shadows behind the police box, an indescribable figure, all for its haunting smile, which was as clear as day. The Doctor and Martha ran across the road, which was quiet even for night time. They could sense a feeling of foreboding, like something was waiting in the dark to jump out at them when they weren't looking. When they came to the end of the long, twisting road, they found a once ornate gate, which had been long since overwhelmed by the ravages of time, and was completely rusted shut, strangled by weeds and covered in forgotten chains. "How do we get in, then?" "You're going to use the sonic, right?" suggested Martha. "Oh, Martha Jones, where's the fun in that?" the Doctor said as he started to climb the gate like an overexcited 10-year-old. "You can't be serious," Martha said, reacting to this vivid display of behaviour. The Doctor reached for the top of and one of the metal bars broke up the gate and gave way. He proceeded to fall to the ground like a conker falling from a tree. Martha chuckled. "Serves you right for climbing a clearly dangerous gate," she said, as she pointed to the sign on the gate labelled, "Danger, keep out." "Oh, you know me, Martha, I eat danger for breakfast," replied the Doctor as he got back on his feet. "Oh, well, you know what they say, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Maybe you should try something a little healthier," Martha joked as she spotted a gap in the wall surrounding the circumference of the house. Martha managed to crawl through the gap, getting her hands covered in sticky grass stains, which made her hands itch irritably. Not far away, watching from across the road, an angelic figure loomed behind the tree, looking on to the two travellers like prey walking into the lion's den. He smiled to itself malevolently. On the other side of the gate, the Doctor and Martha were reunited. Martha brushed off the grass stains on her hand in an attempt to relieve some of the itchiness. She looked at the doctor. "Are you okay?" she inquired. "Yeah, just a scratch," replied the doctor. "Okay then. What kind of idiot are you? Do you know how many idiots like you I have to deal with in A&E on a Friday night?" she yelled at him. "A very clever one, Martha. Shall we move on?" suggested the doctor, using his hand to indicate moving towards the house. "Fine," she said a disgruntled Martha, as she led the way onwards up the path. "Bit Scooby-Doo, isn't it?" joked Martha, looking at the decrepit house. "Oh, it's nothing like Scooby-Doo. Trust me, I've met Scooby-Doo. He's nothing like this," responded the doctor, getting out his sonic to scan for readings he picked up earlier. "That's not what I meant, but hang on, you've met Scooby-Doo?" she asked, when all of a sudden there was an eerie laugh, like children playing in the garden. "What was that?" she further inquired. The doctor had concern written all over his face, but it didn't let fear come out in his words. "Probably nothing. Maybe the wind?" What if it's, "I know what," responded the doctor. "Ghosts!" said Martha, as if not to be heard by anything that would be lurking in the overgrown weeds, or hiding in the monstrously huge trees. "Now come on, Martha, there's no such thing. You're a doctor, surely you're above these kind of fantasies," groaned the doctor, as if the word ghost brought on disrepute upon the entire area. "Well, I didn't believe in Jadoon, or living suns, or walking scarecrows before you," quipped Martha. They finally came to the end of the road. Once they passed a large tree, they could finally see the full expanse of the house. The house was falling apart. It had a textbook haunted house vibe coming from it. Even the shutters seemed to quake in the wind. Martha felt as though she was in some nasty horror novel like It, or The Haunting of Hill House. The windows were shattered like a broken record, with splinting sharpness. The house seemed empty and soulless, like its very heart had been torn out from within. There was a tower which reached high into the sky, twisting and snatching as it did so. The doctor picked up a higher concentration of energy signals converging on the house. "Whatever it is, it's inside here," concluded the doctor, pointing the sonic towards a weak and feeble door which was barely containing the horrors inside. Plastered upon the battered door was a poster, with Vote Saxon inscribed upon it, with a massive box and an X smeared across it. Further elsewhere, the distant chatter of children could be heard. Martha turned round. She could see nothing but the spooky mists rising out of nowhere, and a collection of shadowy graves, which statues of angels adorning each of them. The doctor cracked open a door with his sonic screwdriver. "Aha! I've got it!" he proclaimed, opening the door. "Doctor, am I the only one getting this feeling?" Martha said, folding her arms together, as if to back off the chill of night. "What sort of feeling?" the doctor inquired, looking at her. "But it's sort of dark, cold, and unnerving, I guess," Martha replied. "Otherwise known as night. Now come on, after you," said the doctor, opening the door for Martha. Martha went inside, followed by the doctor. They came to an empty corridor, consumed by shadows, which reached into every corner of the house. Martha found a candelabra on the floor, rusted beyond repair, but there were still candles inside. She picked it up. "Any chance of a match? You may have your sonic, but this place is way too worn in black for me to not want at least some light of my own," Martha asked, holding up the candelabra to the doctor. The doctor used his sonic to light the candles, which flared up like a roaring fire. "Show off," grumbled Martha under her breath. She turned round to get closer and look into the crumpled, empty house. She felt around, looking for something on the floor. She found nothing. Although the light missing from the candles was somewhat comforting, Martha couldn't help but feel on edge as she heard the voice of creeping floorboards and the wind howling through the cracks in the house. "Where did you get the tip-off from this place began, anyway?" Martha asked the doctor, as she examined the sea-green patterned wallpaper which seemed to tear at the edges. "Some guy in a shop. Was it a school governor? I don't really tend to keep track of these things. He did have a weird parrot, though. What did he call him? Ah, the captain. That was it, I think. He was a very odd fella. Very mysterious, the doctor explained, scanning the room, which caused the sonic's beeping noise to intensify. I'm getting strong readings coming from this area, said the doctor, pointing towards the cellar. There was an intense knocking coming from above. The doctor and Martha looked up at the cracked ceiling. It was almost like a desert. What was that? Martha asked fearfully. Could be anything. Pipes, collapsing wardrobe. Hell, this place is old. Maybe the roof collapsed. The doctor replied in the least reassuring manner possible. Or maybe it's something much worse, Martha theorized. In her head she fantasized ghouls, vampires, and fierce demons of all sorts. Yeah, that would be much more exciting, the doctor replied. Sure. Martha didn't really agree with the doctor. Maybe I should take a look and see if anything is safe up there, or Martha suggested. Sure, just don't wander off too far, requested the doctor. Like you're one to talk, joked Martha, as she turned round the corner to find an ancient dying staircase, which Martha climbed with intense caution. The stairs creaked and wailed like all the demons from hell were crawling out to be released from their dark, wintry prison. Although the candelabra lit Martha's path, she could not help feel as if she was completely lost in the house. She wanted to turn back, but something kept urging her forward, as if she dare not look back. Behind her, something watched her, and creeped about unseen like a moving shadow, sticking to the darkness. Elsewhere, the doctor found himself in a great library. The room was collapsed, and the pages of books strewn across the floor like a needless battlefield. Amongst the pages of books were texts from a lost time and a series of angelic illustrations. The doctor knelt down and looked down at a few of these images. There was a loud crackling of thunder, and lightning cast the shadow of a lonely figure onto the floor. The doctor quickly turned round to see who was there, but instead turned round to see the rain was pouring down heavily onto an empty landscape consumed by weeds and decay. Martha had reached the top of the tower that she found herself in, and an empty drawing room which was completely brought together by a shattered chandelier in the centre. Martha heard a distant chatter in the back. She turned round, little noticing the figure that was following her as she moved straight past her and hiding into a small corner, whereas it was not to be seen. Martha went to follow the distant chatter she could hear, guided by her candlelight. The landing was decorated with leaves and weeds, eating into the fabric of the desolate house. "Doctor?" Martha called, only to be ignored. "I think there's something down here," she said, inching with unease down the landing. However, the doctor was distracted, having stumbled across a fallen bookshelf. There was only one book which remained intact. The cover looked cheap, as if it had been stuck in the window of a charity shop for many a moon before being picked up by some guilty onlooker who felt bad for coming into the shop without buying anything. So, he bought the cheapest possible item to avoid the shame of walking out empty-handed. The colour scheme used vibrant mustardy colours and depicted a high-rise New York-like skyscrapers. The main character was emblazoned upon the cover, a mysterious yet subconsciously familiar character to the doctor. She wore a brown fedora hat, which cloaked her face, all for her piercing red lips and the edge of her golden curled hair. She wore a long brown trench coat, not too dissimilar to that of the doctor's. The doctor was intrigued by the book, which was titled Melody Malone. He reasoned he could always read it later and stuffed it into his pocket. Elsewhere, Martha had now reached the end of the landing. She was greeted by a door which looked as though it had given up on its function altogether, and lay on the ground in despair. Martha found a large lounge with stone dust scattered across the ground. Despite there being a large window, little comforting light was let in, as the room was shrouded by overgrown trees and plants. The light from the candles revealed that hanging upon the wall was a large, incomplete stone tapestry, depicting a giant angel standing above London, dominating the picture as people below stood like ants and looked as if to be offering up objects of value. Some even offered newborn children. Martha was unsure of what to make of this. Perhaps it was a doorway. Complete all the pieces and you can travel through it, she reasoned. Martha hoped that was the answer, because of course the alternative would be that something came through it. Martha looked up to the ceiling, squinted her eyes to read the graffiti which had been marked against it. It was a Bible quote. Martha recognised it. "Praise ye him, all his angels, all his hosts." This was graffitied in blood, she realised, as it dripped slowly onto the floor. "Blessed be the arrival, and the terror and the fear that shall be unleashed." Martha felt her blood curdle, as if something in the room had moved without her knowing. The doctor was too engrossed by his surroundings that he hadn't noticed that on the floor, life had been breathed into the lifeless sketches on the floor. A graphite claw reached out from the unseen aged paper, and slowly an angel emerged. Martha, still examining the tapestry, did not notice a stone hand amongst all the rubble move. It got up unseen and crawled onto the wall like some kind of arachnid. Martha heard the tapping and turned round to see what it was. The hand had already moved out of view. It scuttled on the ceiling like a beetle scuttling across a grave. Martha could hear childish giggling intensifying outside. She felt like she was being stalked. Martha looked down onto the hollow landing. "Doctor! I think there's something here," she yelled. As she did, the stone hand launched itself at Martha from the ceiling like a harpoon. Elsewhere, the angel had slowly been crawling out its way from the sketch paper, without the doctor noticing. The angel appeared to have a sketchy form, like an artist had sketched it out in real life. The angel looked fierce and wild as an animal, which was growing stronger than one too. The doctor heard Martha shouting at last. He turned round to chase after her, only to be greeted by the horrific image of a sketched weeping angel. The doctor jumped back. "Hang on, Martha! I've kind of got problems of my own down here!" he yelled back. The doctor tripped over a page of paper on the floor. While he did not fall to the ground, he was briefly distracted by his ankle, which gave the angel a moment to jump forward. The doctor sharply looked back at it in time, just as the angel's infernal face was right in his own. Martha managed to duck just in time as she turned round to see the hand, which froze to stone as soon as she saw it. "The doctor!" she yelled back out as she turned round, only to be greeted by 5 stone babies. They were chubby and cute, but behind their cynical smiles, Martha could sense deceit. She backed slowly towards the wall. The babies that were not revealed by the glow of the light were free to move around as she did so. She kept her eyes on them, not seeing the stone hand scuttle up the wall behind her. She could feel their cold hand clutch her ankle as she let out a loud scream. "Doctor!" The doctor heard this, although still obstructed by the graphite angel. The doctor cleverly realised that the angel, although 3D, was still made out of graphite and paper. So the doctor whipped out a giant rubber, which he used to erase the angel in his path. The rubber was like a sword stabbing through flesh. The doctor used it to cut off one of the angel's monstrous claws. The doctor blinked when he did this. It was only then when he realised what they were. "Ah, you're quantum locked," he concluded. "Stone statues look like angels, therefore you must be one of the lonely assassins, or more commonly known as weeping angels. Got a lovely folder on you guys, you know. Can't remember who gave it to me now, but they gave me a warning. What was it? Oh, wait, hang on." That's when he remembered Sally Sparrow's warning and her voice echoing through his mind. "One day, you're going to get stuck in 1969. Make sure you have this when you're there." Was this it, he thought? Whatever happened, he knew how to protect Martha. He heard a noise coming from the cellar. Something horrid was climbing up the stairs. "Ah, so there's more of you, is there?" he said, as if he was thinking aloud to himself. "Got to find Martha and warn her," he thought, to himself as he slowly backed away and ran through the corridors and up the crooked stairs. But he didn't notice a single angel with a sinister smile concealed by its hands as if it were weeping. Unnoticed by the doctor, the angel slowly chased after him, followed by the cruel, cold angels which had ascended from the cellar. Meanwhile, Martha found herself in a much more difficult predicament. She was surrounded by cherub babies. She tried to run, but the stone hand kept her firmly in place, like a wild animal snare. While she struggled to free herself, she didn't notice that one of the angel babies extinguished the 3 candles on her candelabra she'd been carrying. Martha found herself consumed by darkness. "Am I brave enough?" she said, questioning herself under her voice. Suddenly, she could hear the doctor thumping up the stairs. She could feel the stone hand had released her ankle. "Doctor, I'm in here!" she yelled with a massive sigh of relief. However, when she stepped forwards, she walked straight into the merciless hands of an angel. The last thing Martha saw before she was zapped out of time was the fierce, cold, relentless stare of the weeping angel. Martha let out a harrowing screech which could be heard for miles. Climbing through the landing, the doctor heard this, but as he did, he fell out of his long coat, a singular key attached to a sandy brown string, which fell through the cracks and into the stairs and into the hands of the angels below. The angel inside the room had locked the door, which had previously been on the floor when Martha was locked inside. He got out his sonic screwdriver and managed to unlock it. The door collapsed onto the floor again, like a lost soul. The doctor looked inside to find the extinguished candelabra broken on the floor into 1,000,000 pieces, like a broken heart. The doctor saw the angel in the corner, surrounded by the cherub babies. It stood tall and proud of what it had achieved. The Time Lord felt the fury run through his veins, the great pain which weighed upon his heart like a heavy dumbbell. But like a weightlifter, he used his fury to channel his warning to the angels. "You don't know me yet, for I warn you, whatever you've done to her, I will get her back, even if I have to crush you into dust. You might think this is a game, but I'll tell you what it is. It's not a game. And if it is a game, I'm not going to let you win. I am the doctor, and if you don't bring her back now, you're going to wish your sorry stone bodies had never been born." The doctor could hear the unmistakable roar and screeching of the angels' laughter, which hallowed throughout the house, like a scream in a cave. The doctor quickly found himself surrounded by angels. They were massing around him like vultures. "Don't blink," he thought to himself, but that's when he realised if the angels refused to bring Martha back, then he had to go back after her. He quickly turned round to the angel in the corner. He looked right into its lifeless eyes, as if it were having a staring match with him. All around him he could see the assassins gathered to feed off him too. He knew what he had to do. He had to blink.